Today on the bench we have not a radio. I guess you could call it a radio accessory. It does have a radio position. Reason I thought I'd show it, it may not be a CD, but it does take a CB microphone. So this is a new old stock. It was made by Fanon Courier Corporation. So that's why I bought it. This belongs to me. You get to a point collecting CBs, you pretty much get them all. So what do? Well, you start collecting accessories from companies that made CBs. So that's kind of where I'm starting to get into a lot of the oddball stuff. And this little critter came up, and I thought, oh, why not? It's brand, it came in the box with all the original, obviously had never been used or out of the box. So there's the. So you can see it's Fanon Courier Corporation, which they made a lot of really nice CBs. And no, I did not pay $79.95 for it. It actually looks like it was probably originally sold maybe by Lafayette. Of course, Lafayette, another popular, radio company, but they had stores. I get the feeling maybe that's where at one point in time this thing actually was picked up, was at a Lafayette radio and electronics store. So, but in any case, so like I say, it came with all the accessories, even had the mounting bracket for it, because this is mobile, so it operates off, 12 volts or 13.8 volts. And what it is basically a PA amplifier, but meant for use in your car or truck. Now you could hook up, I guess you could say it has 3 inputs. So you can use it for a PA with the microphone. And then you also have 2 auxiliary, or actually 2 inputs. You have an auxiliary and radio. So you could shoot your CB radio. Actually, they tell you in the instructions to just solder wires to the speaker of your radio, and then they run into the radio jacks on the back, where there's also an RCA jack on the back for the auxiliary position. And it has, basically volume controls. One for the microphone and then one for the auxiliary radio, depending on what position you have that switch in. And then there's also a tone control. And it actually works fairly well. I did recap it. Didn't take but a couple minutes because there's not that many caps in it. And very simple to do. Usually I don't have time to recap my own stuff. It gets stuck on a shelf and I'll probably never do it again. But I figured, as simple as this thing is. So there's not an extreme amount of stuff to it. So you can see transformer, there's your 2 main amplifier transistors down there running in push-pull, and there's a couple electrolytic caps on this board. This board comes out real easy. 2 screws down here, and just take this screw out the back for this bracket here. The board slides out. A couple minutes, new caps, ready to go. So it's fresh and ready to sit on a shelf for the next 40 years. But it actually works. Now, I kind of have to laugh at their specifications on this thing. Yeah, the model number, you can see Power Plus 35. So it's supposed to be a 35-watt amplifier. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it does 35 watts. But yeah, I think they say 35 watts, 10% distortion. Yeah. Power output at 10% distortion, 35 watts. Yeah, I don't think so. It'll do probably 15. I don't know, actually, it depends on the frequency. Somewhere between 15 to 18 before you really start to notice distortion. But it works fine. Actually, this thing will put out like up to 40 watts. But like I say, you're really starting to get distorted by then. But nice, comes with the schematic. So if anybody has one of these, needs to work on it, freeze the frame, or take a screen capture. There's the schematic for it. Like I say, very simple. Just a simple amplifier circuit. There's the 2 main output transistors. And interesting, I wouldn't call it a safety precaution because you're not going to electrocute yourself with this thing. Like I say, it's 12 volts, fairly low power, but you can get a tingle out of this. And I found that out. I had this thing pushing out probably 35 to 40 watts at the time. And I was just reaching down in here, seeing how hot these transistors were getting. And I put both fingers, actually these 2 fingers, across both of the transistors. Well, the transistor bodies are live. That's actually a connection. That's why there's always an insulator in between the transistors and, you know, the heat sinks. That's because there's actually, that is one of the connections for the transistors. And I got my fingers across both of those, and I got a tiny tingle. It was enough to go, oh, hold on. I was like, oh yeah, nitwit, you're touching two transistors at the same time. And actually, yeah. So basically, in essence, I had my one finger right there and one finger right there at the outputs. So I jumped right across the output transformer. But like I say, no harm done because it's fairly low voltage. But and it's probably the first time I've actually felt electricity in, man, probably been 2 years or more. I haven't gotten a tingle off any. I'm very careful about stuff like that, especially with high voltage. But you tend to forget sometimes when you're dealing with little small stuff like this. It's not hazardous. I know that, so I don't need to exercise extreme caution like I do when I'm working with high voltage stuff. But yeah, you still tend to forget that. Yeah, you can still get a tingle out of stuff like this. But like I say, it works. I ripped the camera out of the mount. Let me try that again. It just stuck back in there. So, what I have it run into... Is the camera going to focus again? What happened to focus here? Am I missing something, camera? Why are you not focusing anymore? Crap, what did I do? Hell, I turned autofocus off. There we go. Well, that had me screwed up for a minute. Okay, now that we're back and in focus, the setup I have, I just have this set of wires run over to an amplifier tester. Because I do work on a lot of amplifiers and stereo equipment and stuff like that. So I just have it run into that. That's a 250 watt, has built-in 250 watt dummy loads. It's a stereo power amplifier, meter, tester, and dummy load. And then I have, you'll actually see there's a scope probe hanging out the front of it, so it actually has outputs. And I just have that output, have the scope probe just shoved into that BNC jack with an adapter, and that just comes over to the oscilloscope. So if I turn the microphone up here, and I talk into the mic, you can see there's what I'm saying into the microphone. So it does work. And I have, also, I have the iPod, or iHome up here has an iPod that goes into this receive switcher. So I have the output of the receive switcher, that's that black cable coming down, and I have that run into the input on the auxiliary jack. So if I just push play on the iPod, so it's doing about, if you watch you can see the meter over there. It's doing right about, actually it's pegging at about 25 watts right there. I have it on the ×1 scale. And you can definitely see some flat topping if you watch the waveform there, and that's your distortion. Transistors are completely saturated and it just starts to clip. I'd call it right about, probably right around there. Like I say, 10 to 15 watts. It's good for, fairly clean. But I just thought I'd show this because this is one of those little gadgets you probably never see and probably never will again. So there's the Fanon Courier Power Plus 35M transistorized mobile PA amplifier. Just one of the interesting little gizmos made throughout the decades.